If you are long on Larry Fink's vision that everything will be tokenized and you're not considering this name, you could be missing the boat.
I do believe we're just at the beginning of the tokenization of all assets.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy JT, and we are back to the Crypto Den. We have an exciting topic. I rarely spend the time to talk about the names that I'm investing in the fund. Mainly because this is not financial advice. I am going to be educating you on exactly why I personally invest in this name, both with my fund and me personally. It's an exciting protocol. It's old. I know I'm the boomer coin guy. It is proven, market tested. It is massive. It has insane upside long term, in my opinion. And I'll show you all the data that gets me excited about this token called Aave. Now, Aave, why do I like Aave? First and foremost, banking is kind of a massive industry. The TAM, total attainable market, is massive. We're talking tens and tens of trillions of dollars. There is a ton of intermediaries in the banking sector. The whole premise of blockchain technology is that we are able to put our bank accounts on the internet for all to see and know that it is safe. That is the advent of blockchain. Okay. And what that allows us to do is move value online or on chain. They're going to be the same 10 years from now. Move that savings account, that 401k, that whatever on chain. And then we can transact at the speed of the internet for the most part, depending on the network. But that's not what this video is about. In general, what that allows us to do is remove trusted intermediaries completely, okay, and go to a peer-to-peer distribution kind of situation, just like content. 50 years ago, what I'm doing right now and what you're doing, learning from a peer, this peer-to-peer exchange that we're both undergoing, that is what disrupted the media with Web 2.0. What the second iteration of the internet allowed us to do is exchange information without trusted intermediaries. I don't have to go to the newspaper, the magazine, the TV show, the broadcast channel, blah, 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 blah. They're all gone. And now Joe Rogan with his own podcast is the largest voice in the world. The same thing is going to happen with value because Web3 allows you to do the same thing we do with information, but with value. So what I do is I go look for all these massive industries and who are the most likely to disrupt that market segment. And then I invest my capital and my investors' capital into those protocols. And that's why I discovered Aave, because they are in a great position, in my opinion. They are just mint. First and foremost, let me show you why I like Aave so much. I got lots of cool little screens over here. First, we're going to start with their website. That's where you should start when you want to think about something that you could potentially invest in. On here, what I like most about it, forget that they have these insane partners that, can make them a lot of money. It's right here. Look at this. 192 billion in the past 30 days, 63 billion in net deposits across 12 networks. It's literally the Ethereum virtual machines bank. It's paying out 4.92%, which is healthy, and 7.73% in Ethereum. To make sense of what you're looking at, this is a bank and it's essentially its business activity. And you don't really have a good way of knowing, how good is that? What's the scale, JT? Well, I got a nice little link for you. 60 billion in deposits. We're going to be looking at right here, this column. This is in millions, so this is 94 billion. Look where they're at. They're in the top 40 right here. Let's go look at what's smaller. I bet there's going to be some banks that you guys recognize. Barclays, Deutsche Bank, not the Deutsche, but one of their subsidiaries in America. Raymond James, Bank United. I know we got those here. You see what I'm saying? It is in the top 40 largest banks in the world, and it's on the internet. It's a website, essentially, and it's a website that anyone in the world can use. Now, you may ask, how does that even work? What does it look like? I drew a nice little picture for you guys. So the way a bank typically works, we're just going to look over here. You are an individual that has dollars, right? This is Web 2. You either go into, we're just going to do physical banks. You go into a physical bank, and then behind the tellers, so that, forget all the other people that are in the teller, in front of this. So you're going to have a bunch of tellers. You go talk to a teller, then you're going to go talk to a banker. If you wanted to get a loan specifically, we're talking about underwriting loans. You're going to talk to a banker. You're going to talk to potentially, before a banker, a loan officer. That's a sales guy. So loan officer, banker, then you have an underwriter, and then you have the adjuster, and then possibly a guy that makes a decision. So you have 5 humans plus the teller, 6 humans. That's not including any third parties they may use, and they're third parties, because you can go to a bank and have someone else do the loan. You start thinking about it, there could be up to 8 or 9 people on a loan current. Now, the way Aave works is it's a protocol. So same situation. You're a dude with some stable tokens instead of dollars. So this person wants to get a loan on their ETH. Can't even go to a bank for that, really. They can go to Coinbase. They use Morpho, which I will get into a little bit. Morpho's awesome. It's probably Aave's closest competitor, and they do it a lot different, and it's really neat. We'll talk about that later. You want to get a loan, and this guy wants to get yield. So let's say you got $1 million of stable tokens here, and you got this guy that wants, call it 700,000 of ETH, or he wants to put his ETH up and get a loan on it. You can think of it that way. So he's got $1 million of ETH, $1 million each. The ETH individual, call him Bob. Bob's going to put his ETH up into Aave, into a smart contract protocol. This guy is then going to put his stable tokens in Aave. Now, the interesting thing is their agreement, smart contract, is what controls this deposit. So they both deposit their stuff. And they both agreed to the smart contract, which has all of the loan terms. So you don't need an underwriter, and you don't need a loan officer to match liquidity to needs. You'll have a guy like this guy that wanted to get yield, Bob and Joe. Joe wants yield. He would say, I'll give 70% LTV, loan to value, charge you 12%. And Bob, the guy that wanted to get a loan on his ETH, put up his ETH, agreed to those terms as soon as he put his ETH in there, and the loan's executed in like 5 to 10 seconds. And they are doing this with 192 billion, with 63 billion of net deposits, meaning this side of the equation, the dollars, let's go back to this, Joe, there's 63 billion Joes, and then there are, 200 billion Bobs with 0 employees involved. It's all automated through smart contracts. So this is a direct competitor to the banking system. They run on the Ethereum virtual machine. So if you have stable tokens on Ethereum and they want to go get yield, like Joe, they go to Aave. That is why I am so bullish on Aave long term, because of the Genius Act. Now, we've made some videos about the Genius Act before. Genius Act is super interesting. It's interesting because it is essentially opening up the stablecoin market for everyone in America. If you have a banking charter, you can license or issue stable tokens. And if you're already doing it, you got to get a banking charter, but they're going to allow you. So essentially, banks are going to be issuing stable tokens. When the banks get those deposits, they're going to buy treasuries. That's going to help repair our economy. If they're issuing stable tokens, that means the consumers are going to have more stable tokens. If you go look at the growth of stable tokens, yes, that's a real chart. Literally back in 2018, there was 110,000 stable tokens. 60 million, 100 million, a few billion. Look at this. 150 billion, now all the way up to 309 billion. Very, very exciting. If I go look at Aave and its activity, active users spiked, but I want you to look at these active loans. Look at this. It is almost doubled. That is not a coincidence from stable tokens going up. And the fact that Scott Bessant, the Treasury Secretary in America, has said that he sees stable tokens getting to $2 trillion.
Stablecoin legislation backed by U.S. Treasuries will create a market that will expand U.S. dollar usage via these stablecoins all around the world. I think that $2 trillion is a very reasonable number.
And that is the number one mind who has conversations with the banks. Like, he really believes that. And that's why the Genius Act passed. It's his job to repair our economy. And he believes stable tokens could be a new net demand for treasuries. Because every dollar you put into a stable token, the issuer goes and buys $1 worth of a treasury. And then they keep the yield, or they spit some of that yield back to you, etc. All of that means there's more dry powder on DeFi. And if there's more Joes, that means more people are going to want to get this kind of yield. Look at that. So you're on average paying almost 8% to take a loan on ETH, and you can put your stable tokens into as a deposit into Aave and get 4.92%. And the network's charging almost 8%. So they have a great model here, and they can scale, guys. They're in the top 40 right here. I am bullish on Aave because I'm bullish on Ethereum long term. I'm bullish on stable tokens on Ethereum long term. And Aave is the best horse in this race, if you will. They've been around since 2016, maybe even 2015. Team's seasoned, we're talking 8-9 years experience, and they have the most volume by far. Closest competitor would be Morpho. So we can go into Morpho a little bit. Morpho is a little different than Aave. It is a lot like Aave. Well, first, take a look at the math on it. 12 billion of deposits. So, I mean, it is growing like a weed, and 4 billion in loans, which is, healthy ratio. What I like about Morpho compared to Aave, and I own both, I invest in both. Everything I just said about Aave is also true for Morpho. We talked about the macro climate and environment that would allow Aave to flourish. That also applies to Morpho because they benefit from stable tokens in DeFi, and I only see that increasing and proliferating as the market develops, given the Genius Act was passed with flying colors. Paul Atkins, like everything that's happening, it's a great look. What Morpho allows you to do, Aave you basically have to fork to use. Like if you're a builder, so forget loans and peer-to-peer markets. Now we're talking about the actual technology because it is a little different. On Aave, you can fork it and then choose to give tokens back to Aave, the DAO and the treasury. That's what Trump said he was going to do with World Liberty Financial. World Liberty Financial forked Aave and built their own website and basically spun up their own bank using Aave and said they would contribute 10% back to Aave, and they have reneged on that deal, essentially. We don't really know the long-term sustainability of people actually using Aave from a builder perspective. You could think of this as more like a consumer app, if you will, and it's crushing. Morpho has a slightly different edge because all of these companies, including Coinbase and Crypto.com and Gemini and Ledger, all these companies here, Trust Wallet, Binance, Sui, Say, all of them are plugging into Morpho, using Morpho token and infrastructure. They basically have APIs, the equivalent of an API, or you can think of them as almost like a wall outlet. You can just plug in the Morpho, offer loans, have Morpho run it all, and have that value accrue to the token. So it's like, this is more of an enterprise play. I would say Aave is more retail and Morpho is more enterprise. And these two really are in the best position to benefit from that environment we talked about. All right. Active loans, 4 billion. It is, look, see, guys, look. Do you see the correlation to the stable tokens? Crazy. Let's look at TVL. That's great. That is looking really good. What else do they have? 200 million in fees on 4 billion. Thin margins, but guys, this is an internet protocol again, not a bank, but it is a bank at the same time. Daily active users, 4,000. So about half of Aave. This is looking great, guys. Okay, so like this would be the second competitor to Aave. Now let's just take a look at both of them side by side on the charts. I believe in both of them, and I invest in both of them because Morpho has way more upside than Aave. So I can put, let's say, 6% into Aave and feel real secure, and then put 2% into Morpho for alpha, or 1%, and just kind of break up that split, if you will. And Morpho's price action has been tumultuous, even though the fundamentals are up only, right? That's called alpha. When you see an inverse correlation to price and network dynamics, that's typically alpha. So that's normally what I'm looking for. So we have nothing but up, but the price is just staying down here. It's at a $700 million market cap with an unlocked market cap of $1 billion. 70% is locked up. We should go look at that schedule. I've actually looked at it. It's basically the ladder function, which is what we're looking for, right? 10% unlocked every 6, 8, 12 months, something like that. But in general, it's pretty solid. The low float I don't particularly like, but at the same time, that's why it's so volatile. A lot of the supply is locked up, but the upside is significant. Remember, the TAM is in the trillions, and they're under $1 billion market cap. Now look at Aave. It's almost 4 billion market cap. Now I like the tokenomics. Only 15 million Aave, and it's fully diluted, so it's been around a long time. Its price action has peaked up to $500, $350 in the last big hype up, $200. It likes to chill around 200s or down here. But again, we're up only on both of those charts. Aave is at 4 billion. If Morpho could compete with Aave, that's almost a 6x right there. I know it's not crazy. I'm a boomer. I get it. For investing long term, that's a great return. I like to balance, like if I said I wanted to get a real stranglehold in my portfolio on EVM lending, I don't know if I would invest in many other names other than Aave or Morpho, if that was my goal. You can go into outside of lending. I like liquidity providers like Uniswap. That tech is really cool. I like EVM data providers like Chainlink and Pyth. These are all different services, sectors, segments in Ethereum. That's why I take a diversified approach. All of these things have upside and all of them are cool and amazing tech. Aave and Morpho, I think, are in the best position to capitalize on this stuff. And that's why I invest in them. That's why I'm excited to invest in them. And that's why I'm excited to talk to you all about it. We live in a time where we can get equity, direct working interest in internet protocols. Like, it's amazing. It sounds nerdy. Imagine this, okay? You're on a website, you know you have a domain name, mine's Bleeding Edge Capital. On Bleeding Edge Capital, but if domain name service, the protocol, DNS, did not exist, I would have to remember numbers and decimals to get to Bleeding Edge Capital. So all domain name service does is register a name and then map it to IP address, which is where that stuff is hosted on a server. That's all it does. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars have been transacted on domains. Probably more, honestly, over the last 40, 50 years. Think about how much value is on the domain Facebook or YouTube, Meta, whatever, GE, right? None of that would be possible without DNS. And back then, there was no encryption, no crypto, so you couldn't get equity in it. And all these open source developers built the framework of the internet, and then some really smart entrepreneur saw a free protocol called DNS. It was open source. He packaged that with HTTP, IPOP, IMAP3, all this stuff to create GoDaddy. That way, you and I can just go buy a domain by clicking some buttons. He threw an interface on top of a protocol. That's exactly what Morpho does. And that's what Aave can do if you fork it. It's a little bit more complex, which is why I like Morpho as well. Either way, you now, by buying those tokens, can have a stake in a protocol that could be used by anyone in the world to build literally anything. Let me know if you guys want to see a deep dive on Morpho. I just kind of grazed the surface. I'd love to know if you guys, maybe I can do a comparison video between the two. Until next time, take care of one another. Peace and love. I'll see you.